I stand in the hospital corridor, exhausted from a 10-hour drive. Holding a carefully wrapped baby blanket I knitted myself. My son Ryan appears from the delivery room, his face hard and cold. He blocks the doorway. "Mom, my wife only wants her family here," he says. My heart stops. I try to speak, to remind him I am family. But Ryan cuts me off with words that shatter me. "Do not push this. She never wanted you here. She never wanted you, period." I turn and walk away, silent, carrying the blanket. The drive from my small town in Ohio to this hospital in North Carolina took me 10 hours. I left my house at 3 in the morning, too excited to sleep anyway. The highway stretched endlessly before me, but I didn't mind. I was going to meet my grandson, my first grandchild. The thought carried me through every mile. In the passenger seat sat a canvas bag filled with gifts I'd spent months preparing. The hand-knitted baby blanket, soft yellow yarn with white trim, took me 3 months of evenings to complete. Each stitch held a prayer for this child. Beside it was a photo album I'd created, filled with pictures of Ryan's childhood. I wanted my grandson to know where he came from, to see his father as a little boy, learning to ride a bike, blowing out birthday candles, graduating high school in his cap and gown. It also packed containers of homemade meals: lasagna, chicken, casserole, beef stew, all frozen and ready to heat. New parents need help, need sustenance, and I wanted to make their lives easier in those first overwhelming weeks. When Ryan called me 3 days earlier, his voice was urgent. "Mom, Amber's going into labor early. Can you come?" I didn't hesitate. I called my supervisor at the library where I work part-time, explained the situation, and she told me to go. My neighbor agreed to water my plants and collect my mail. I packed my bag within an hour. Ryan is my only child. I raised him alone after my husband Gerald died of a sudden heart attack when Ryan was 12 years old. One moment Gerald was mowing the lawn on a Saturday afternoon. The next he was gone. The doctors said it was massive and instant. He didn't suffer, they told me, as if that made the hole in our lives any smaller. After Gerald died, I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. Mornings and afternoons I waitressed at Martha's Diner on Main Street, serving coffee and eggs to the same customers who'd known me since I was young. Weekends I kept books for Patterson's hardware store, balancing accounts and tracking inventory. The work was endless, the exhaustion bone deep, but I never let Ryan see me falter. He needed stability. He needed to know we'd be okay. I put every extra dollar toward his future. When he got accepted to college, I cried with joy. He was the first person in our family to go. He studied business administration, made good grades, joined clubs. He was building a life I could only dream of when I was his age. That's where he met Amber. She came from money, the kind of family that vacationed in Europe and belonged to country clubs. Her father owned a chain of car dealerships across 3 states. When Ryan first brought her home to meet me, I saw the way she looked at our small house, the worn furniture, the modest neighborhood. Her smile was polite, but her eyes were measuring, calculating. Still, Ryan loved her. That was enough for me. Amber's mother, Patricia, made her feelings clear from the start. At family gatherings, she'd make comments about my quaint lifestyle, my simple tastes. Once at a holiday dinner, she asked what I did for a living. When I explained about the diner and the hardware store, she said, "How industrious," in a tone that made it sound like an insult. When Ryan and Amber got engaged, I wanted to contribute to the wedding. I knew Amber's parents would pay for most of it, but I had savings. $10,000 had been putting away for years, meant for my retirement someday. I gave it all to Ryan. "For your wedding," I told him. "For your future." The wedding was spectacular. Ice sculptures, a 12-piece orchestra, flowers everywhere. I wore my best dress, a navy blue one I'd bought on sale, and tried not to feel out of place among the designer gowns and tailored suits. Amber's family and friends spoke a language of privilege I didn't understand, referencing places and experiences foreign to me. After the wedding, the distance grew. Ryan's visits became less frequent. When I called, conversations were brief. "I'm busy, Mom. Work is crazy. I'll call you back." But the callbacks rarely came. Then Amber got pregnant. When Ryan told me, I wept with happiness. A grandchild. A chance to love someone new, to pass on the traditions and stories that mattered. I immediately started preparing. I took online classes about newborn care, wanting to be helpful and informed. I bought tiny clothes, soft blankets, gentle toys. I offered to come stay with them after the birth, to cook and clean and hold the baby while they slept. Amber's responses were always vague. Well, see, let's wait and talk about it later. My mom will probably be staying with us. But when Ryan called 3 days ago, breathless and excited, saying Amber was in labor and asking me to come, all those doubts vanished. He wanted me there. They wanted me there. I drove through the night and into the morning, stopping only for gas and coffee. When I finally reached the hospital, my back ached and my eyes burned with fatigue, but my heart soared. Then I walked into the waiting room. Amber's entire family filled the space. Her parents, her 2 sisters, aunts, cousins, even family friends. They clustered in groups, laughing and chatting, holding balloons and gift bags. When I entered, the conversation didn't stop, but several people glanced at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. Surprise, maybe, or something less kind. Patricia stood near the coffee machine. She saw me and her mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Oh, you actually came," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "How?" Persistent. I tried to smile back, tried to join a conversation, but no one made space for me. I stood awkwardly near the edge of the group, clutching my canvas bag. Then I noticed something. One of Amber's sisters was scrolling through her phone, showing people the baby registry. I stepped closer, curious to see what else they still needed. Maybe I could pick up a few more items. What I saw made my stomach drop. Every single item I'd purchased weeks ago and shipped to their house was still on the registry. The crib mobile I'd spent $40 on. The diaper bag I'd carefully selected. The baby monitor, the bottles, the burp cloths, everything. Amber's sister was saying, "She registered for so much stuff. Well, probably get duplicates. That's fine, though. You can always return them for store credit." They weren't using my gifts. They were keeping them boxed up to return for cash. Or maybe they'd never even opened the packages. My contributions meant nothing to them. I was nothing to them. I stood there, frozen, as the truth settled over me like ice water. They'd never valued anything I sent. They'd never wanted my help. And maybe, I realized with growing dread, they'd never really wanted me. That's when Ryan appeared in the hallway, walking toward me with purpose. My heart lifted for just a second. Maybe he'd come to take me back to see Amber, to meet the baby. But his face stopped me cold. It wasn't the face of my son, my boy who used to hug me tight and tell me I was the best mom in the world. This was a stranger's face, hard, closed. "Mom," he said, and the word sounded like an accusation. He stood between me and the corridor leading to the delivery rooms. A human barrier. My throat went dry. Amber only wants her family here right now. The words didn't make sense at first. I am family. I'm his mother. I'm the baby's grandmother. I tried to form a response, tried to explain that I'd driven 10 hours, that I just wanted to see them, to help, to be part of this moment. Ryan's eyes were cold. "Do not push this, Mom. She never wanted you here." He paused, and I saw something flicker across his face. Guilt, maybe, or anger at having to say this. "She never wanted you, period." The waiting room went quiet. I felt eyes on me, Patricia's satisfied smirk, Amber's sisters watching the drama unfold. I could have argued, could have cried or begged or reminded Ryan of everything I'd sacrificed for him. But something in me went numb. I simply turned around and walked away. The canvas bag felt heavy in my hands. The blanket I'd knitted with such love, the album I'd created with such care, the meals I'd prepared with such hope, all of it useless now. I walked through the hospital in a daze. The hallways blurred. I passed the nursery window, where tiny infants in clear bassinets slept under warm lights. I wanted to stop, to look, to see if my grandson was there yet. But I couldn't make my feet pause. I just kept walking. In the parking garage, I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I could even put the key in the ignition. My hands shook. My vision kept blurring with tears. I wouldn't let fall. I kept hearing Ryan's voice. She never wanted you. Not she doesn't want you here right now. Not this isn't a good time. But she never wanted you. Past tense, ongoing, complete rejection. Memories flooded me. Ryan, as a little boy, maybe 5 years old, making me a Mother's Day card with crayons and glitter. You're my best friend, Mommy. Head written in wobbly letters. Ryan at 12, right after Gerald died, climbing into my bed in the middle of the night because he was scared. Promise you won't leave me too, he whispered. And I held him and promised, you'll always be my number one, Mom. Head said at his high school graduation, hugging me tight while cameras flashed. Where did that boy go? When did he become this man who could look me in the eye and deliver such cruelty? I finally started the car and began the long drive home. The road stretched endlessly ahead. I'd been so eager on the drive here, so full of anticipation. Now each mile felt like punishment. Somewhere around the 3-hour mark, my mind started replaying every interaction I'd had with Amber over the past few years, looking for clues, looking for the moments I'd missed. The baby shower I wasn't invited to. I'd found out about it through a Facebook post, seen photos of Amber surrounded by friends and family, opening gifts, laughing. When I asked Ryan about it later, he said, "Oh, it was just a small thing with Amber's college friends. Nothing formal." But the photos showed at least 40 people. The times I'd called to ask about helping after the baby was born, offering to come stay for a week or two. Amber would get on the phone, her voice tight. "That's really not necessary, Bernardine. We'll be fine. My mother will be here." The way Amber would change the subject whenever I tried to talk about the baby. If I asked about nursery colors or name ideas, she'd give one-word answers and then say she had to go. I'd told myself she was just stressed, just overwhelmed with pregnancy. I'd told myself things would be better after the baby arrived, that motherhood would soften her, that we'd bond over this shared love for Ryan's child. I'd been so wrong. Around hour 5, I stopped at a rest area. I needed coffee, needed to stretch, needed to breathe. The parking lot was half empty. Families with children played on the small playground nearby. Their laughter felt like mockery. I sat at a picnic table and pulled out my phone. No messages from Ryan. No updates. No photos of the baby. Nothing. I opened Facebook, Instagram, scrolling through my feeds, and there they were. Posts from Amber's family, photos of them crowded around the hospital bed. A tiny red wrinkled face, eyes closed, wrapped in a hospital blanket, captions gushing with joy. "Our precious boy has arrived. Welcome to the family, little one. So blessed to meet our nephew today. As perfect. Congratulations to our beautiful daughter. We're so proud." I wasn't tagged in any of them. My name wasn't mentioned anywhere. In these photos, in these announcements, I didn't exist. I set my phone face down on the table and stared at the trees beyond the rest area. The wind moved through the leaves, indifferent to my pain. That's when my phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. I opened it, expecting spam. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a screenshot of a group chat. The names at the top: Amber, Ryan, Patricia. The date stamp: 2 weeks ago. Amber had written, "Is your mom still planning to come? I really don't want her here. She's so awkward and clingy." Ryan's response: "I'll handle it. We can just tell her at the hospital. She won't make a scene." Patricia's message: "Good. This is our moment. We don't need her negative energy." I read it 3 times, 4 times, hoping I'd misunderstood. But there was no misunderstanding. They'd planned this. The rejection wasn't spontaneous. Wasn't Amber being overwhelmed in the moment of labor. It was calculated. They'd discussed it, strategized it, decided together to wait until I'd driven 10 hours before humiliating me. Ryan had called me, asked me to come, knowing full well he was going to turn me away. Why? To hurt me? To put me in my place? Or because having me there gave them some kind of cover, some way to tell themselves they'd tried to include me? I don't know who sent me that screenshot. Maybe someone added me to the chat by accident. Maybe someone in Amber's family felt guilty and wanted me to know the truth. It didn't matter. What mattered was that my son, the boy I'd raised alone, the child I'd sacrificed everything for, had conspired to wound me in the deepest way possible. I sat at that rest area picnic table as the sun moved lower in the sky, and I felt something shift inside me. The numbness began to crack, and underneath was something cold and clear. Grief, yes, but also anger. Not the hot, explosive kind. The quiet, steady kind that changes things. I got back in my car and drove the remaining 5 hours home. I arrived at my house just after 10 that night. The porch light was on, the way I'd left it. The neighborhood was quiet. Across the street, my neighbor's dog barked once and went silent. Inside, the house felt emptier than ever. Photos of Ryan covered the walls. Ryan as a baby in Gerald's arms. Ryan's first day of kindergarten, gap-toothed smile and dinosaur backpack. Ryan at his college graduation, proud and handsome in his cap and gown. I looked at these photos, and they felt like pictures of a person who no longer existed, or maybe who'd never existed the way I thought he did. I couldn't sleep. I sat in Gerald's old recliner, the one I could never bring myself to get rid of, and watched the hours pass on the clock. 3 in the morning. 4. 5. When dawn came, I called in sick to my part-time job at the library. Mrs. Henderson, my supervisor, didn't ask questions. "Take care of yourself, Bernardine," she said gently, and I wondered if my voice had betrayed me. I moved through that first day like a ghost. I watered my plants. I sorted mail. I stared at the television without seeing it. Friends called. "How's the new grandbaby?" they asked, voices bright with excitement. "Hez beautiful," I said, which wasn't a lie. I'd seen the photos. Everything went well. I couldn't tell them the truth. The humiliation was too fresh, too raw. The second day was worse. The reality settled in deeper. I kept picking up my phone to call Ryan, then setting it down again. What would I say? Head made his choice clear. Around 2 in the afternoon, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. But the caller ID said County General Hospital. My heart jumped. Something happened to the baby. Something went wrong with Amber. Despite everything, I felt a surge of panic. "Hello. Is this Bernardine Thompson?" A woman's voice, professional and neutral. "Yes. This is Carol from the billing department at County General Hospital. I'm calling regarding your son Ryan Thompson and the recent birth." Billing department. My panic shifted to confusion. "Is everything okay? Is the baby all right?" "The baby and mother are fine, ma'am. This is about a financial matter. We have a significant issue that needs to be addressed immediately." I sat down at my kitchen table. "What kind of issue?" Carol's tone remained professional, but I heard a thread of tension underneath. "Our records show that a $10,000 deposit for the private birthing suite and additional services was required 3 months ago when your son booked the accommodations. Your name is listed on the paperwork as the guarantor. However, we've just processed the final billing and discovered the deposit was never actually paid." My mouth went dry. I don't understand. I never agreed to pay for anything. I didn't even know they were using a private suite. "You're listed here as the guarantor, Mrs. Thompson. Your name, your contact information, your signature on the agreement form. That's impossible. I never signed anything." There was a pause. I heard papers rustling. "I'm looking at the document now. The signature is here, dated 3 months ago. I need to see this document. Can you email it to me?" "Of course. I'll send it right now." "But Mrs. Thompson, I need to be clear. We've tried reaching your son multiple times over the past 2 days. He's not responding to calls or messages." The hospital needs this resolved immediately. $10,000 is not a small amount. My hands were shaking. I understand. Send me the documents. I'll look at them and call you back. There's one more thing. Carol's voice dropped slightly, became more careful. There's a note in the file indicating you were pre-approved for a hospital credit line. Did you authorize that? A credit line? Absolutely not. I was afraid of that. Carol sighed. Mrs. Thompson, I'm going to be frank with you. This happens more often than you'd think. Family members use someone else's information without permission. If you didn't authorize any of this, we need to treat it as fraud. The word hung in the air between us. Fraud. My son. My Ryan. Had he really done this? Send me everything, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Every document with my name on it. I need to see it all. I'll send it within the next 10 minutes. I'm very sorry you're dealing with this, Mrs. Thompson. After we hung up, I sat staring at my phone. My email chimed almost immediately. 3 attachments from Carol. I opened the first one. It was a form titled Private Birthing Suite Agreement and Financial Guarantee. The date? 3 months ago, right around the time Amber would have been 6 months pregnant. There was my name. Bernardine Thompson. My address, my phone number, my social security number, and at the bottom, a signature that was supposed to be mine. I've been signing my name the same way since I was in my 20s. Gerald used to tease me about my distinctive flourish at the end, the way I looped the final letter. Fancy, he'd call it. This signature had no flourish. The letters were similar, but the rhythm was wrong. Someone had copied my signature, but not perfectly. The second document made my hands shake harder. It was a copy of my driver's license. How did Ryan get this? Then I remembered. 6 months ago, Ryan came to visit for the weekend. Head asked to borrow my filing cabinet key. Said he wanted to look for an old family photo for something Amber was putting together. I'd given him the key without thinking twice. The filing cabinet where I kept all my important documents. Birth certificate, social security card, passport. Head photographed everything. The third document was an application for a hospital credit line in my name. It had been submitted but apparently declined due to my age and limited income. But the attempt was there, on my credit report, affecting my score. My son had stolen my identity. I sat at that kitchen table as afternoon light slanted through the windows, and I couldn't move. This wasn't just about being excluded from the birth anymore. This was crime. Actual, prosecutable crime. But he was my son. What was I supposed to do? I called Dorothy. We'd worked together at Patterson's hardware store 20 years ago, before she went to law school at age 40. She always said it was never too late to follow your dreams. Now she ran a small practice in town, mostly helping people with wills, property disputes, small claims. Bernardine, good to hear from you. How's the new grandbaby? The casual question nearly broke me. Dorothy, I need help. Legal help. Her tone changed instantly. What happened? I told her everything. The rejection at the hospital, the screenshot of the group chat, the phone call from billing, the forged documents. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Then Dorothy spoke, and her voice was cold with fury. That son of yours committed identity theft and fraud. Against his own mother. Bernardine, this is a felony. I know. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you report this, Ryan could face criminal charges, jail time. I know. My voice came out as a whisper. But if you don't report it, you could be held liable for that $10,000. And who knows what else he might have done with your information. There could be other debts, other accounts opened in your name. I felt sick. What do I do? First, we check your credit report, all 3 bureaus. We see what else is out there. Then we contact the hospital and provide them with evidence that your signature was forged. Then, she paused, then we need to decide if you're going to file a police report. Hez, my son, Dorothy. I know, honey. I know. We spent the next hour on the phone, Dorothy walking me through pulling my credit reports. The hospital credit line inquiry was there, like Carol said. But there was something else. 2 months ago, Someone had attempted to open a credit card in my name at a major bank. That application had also been declined. But the inquiry dinged my credit score. Ryan had been trying to access money using my identity for months. Why would he do this? I asked Dorothy, though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. People do desperate things when they're in financial trouble, Dorothy said carefully. Let me do some digging, okay? Public records, court filings, that kind of thing. Give me a few hours. While I waited, I tried calling Ryan. It went straight to voicemail. I tried 3 more times, same result. Finally, I called the house phone, the landline number I had for them. Amber answered. Bernardine. Her voice was flat, unfriendly. I need to speak to Ryan. He doesn't want to talk to you. Amber, please, this is important. It's about the hospital bill. Oh, that. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Ryan told me you'd probably try to cause problems. You know what? We don't have that kind of money. Figure it out yourself. Amber, I never agreed to pay for anything. Ryan forged my signature. That's between you and him. Don't drag me into your family drama. You're the one who never wanted me at the hospital. You're the one who told him to keep me away. You want the truth, Bernardine? Fine. I didn't want you there because you don't fit. You never have. You're from a different world. And you make everyone uncomfortable. My family has standards. Ryan understood that when he married me. He knew he needed to distance himself from his old life if he wanted to be part of ours. The words were so cruel, so blunt, that for a moment I couldn't respond. My old life, I finally said. I'm his mother. And you've reminded him of that every single day, haven't you? How you sacrificed, how you worked so hard, how you gave him everything. You know what that is? Guilt. You raised him on guilt, and now you're surprised he doesn't want to be around you. She hung up. I sat holding the phone, Amber's words echoing in my head. Was she right? Had I made Ryan feel guilty his whole life? No. I'd loved him. I'd provided for him. I'd never once thrown my sacrifices in his face. But maybe, to him, my very existence was a reminder of a life he wanted to forget. Dorothy called back 3 hours later. Bernardine, sit down. I'm sitting. I found some things. Public records, mostly. Court filings. She took a breath. Ryan and Amber are in serious financial trouble. Ryan lost his job 8 months ago. Some kind of company downsizing. He hasn't told anyone, apparently. They're facing foreclosure on their house. I found a notice of default filed 6 weeks ago. There's $60,000 in credit card debt. My head spun. 60,000. There's more. I found documents showing Amber's father loaned them money last year. $50,000 for Ryan to invest in some kind of business venture, a franchise opportunity. It failed. Lost everything. That's when Amber's parents cut them off financially. I thought of the wedding, the lavish lifestyle, the expensive baby registry. All of it was a facade. They were drowning in debt, pretending everything was fine. They were desperate. I said slowly. They needed money. And they looked at you, Dorothy said quietly. Your good credit. Your history of giving Ryan whatever he asked for. Your savings account. I don't have savings anymore. I gave them the $10,000 for the wedding. They don't know that, Bernardine. They assumed you had more. The hospital suite? That was just the beginning. They probably had a whole plan. What kind of plan? Dorothy's voice was grim. I found something else. A loan application at a bank. Pre-application stage. Never submitted. It's for $50,000, and you're listed as the co-signer. It's dated 1 week after the baby's due date. Understanding crashed over me. They were going to ask me to co-sign a loan right after the baby was born, using grandmother's love as leverage. You'd just met your grandson. You'd be emotional, vulnerable. They'd present it as helping the family, giving the baby a good start in life. And you'd sign, because that's what you always do. But I ruined it. By not having money for the hospital bill they secretly put in my name. You didn't ruin anything. They did this to themselves. So, the rejection at the hospital, that wasn't the original plan. I don't think so, no. I think the original plan was to let you be there, bond with the baby, then hit you up for money. But when they realized you'd discover the forged hospital documents, they panicked. Amber's mother probably pushed for the rejection. Keep you away, buy time, figure out their next move. I felt like I was seeing one of those optical illusion pictures, where suddenly the image shifts and you realize you've been looking at it wrong the whole time. Ryan didn't exclude me because Amber hated me, though she did. He excluded me because Head committed fraud against me and didn't want to face it yet. The rejection was tactical, self-protective. Dorothy, I said, what do I do? You have two choices. You can report this to the police, or you can try to handle it privately. But Bernardine, if you don't report it, if you just let this go, you're teaching him that he can do this to you without consequences. And next time it might be worse. I thought about Ryan as a little boy. The way He'd look at me with such trust, such love. The way He'd say, I love you, Mommy, every single night before bed. I thought about Ryan as a teenager. After Gerald died, how angry he was, how much he blamed the world, but also how hard he tried to be the man of the house. How He'd check the locks at night. How He'd ask if I needed help with anything. I thought about Ryan as an adult, distant, busy, always needing something but never offering anything in return. When had he changed? Or had he always been this way, and I'd just refused to see it? I need to think, I told Dorothy. Don't think too long. The hospital wants their money. If you don't act fast, this could spiral. After we hung up, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went into my bedroom closet and pulled out a box from the top shelf. Inside were letters, dozens of them, letters Gerald had written to me when we were dating, when he was away at training for the National Guard one summer. I opened one at random. My darling Bernardine, you have the strongest heart of anyone I know. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small. You're worth more than you believe. I folded the letter carefully and put it back. Gerald would tell me to stand up for myself. He'd tell me that protecting Ryan from consequences wasn't protecting him at all. It was enabling him to become someone neither of us would recognize. I picked up my phone and called Dorothy back. I want to file a police report, I said. Filing a police report against your own son is not something you do lightly or quickly. Dorothy went with me to the station. We sat in a small room with Detective Sarah Harris, a woman around my age with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I brought the documents Carol had sent me, the forged signature, the credit inquiries, everything Dorothy had found about the attempted loans. Detective Harris examined each page carefully. Mrs. Thompson, you understand this is identity theft. If we pursue this, your son could face criminal charges. I understand. And you still want to proceed. I thought about Amber's words on the phone, about how I didn't fit into their world, about how I made everyone uncomfortable. I thought about Ryan's face in the hospital corridor, the coldness in his eyes. I thought about that group chat, the planning, the calculated cruelty. Yes, I said. I want to proceed. Detective Harris nodded. Then let's get your statement. It took 2 hours. I told her everything. The history, the hospital rejection, the documents. By the end, my throat was raw from talking. Well, investigate thoroughly, Detective Harris said. I'll contact the hospital, verify their documents. Well, need to speak with your son. This might take a few weeks. Will he be arrested? Not immediately. First we investigate, then we present findings to the prosecutor. If charges are filed, he'll be notified and given a chance to turn himself in. But Mrs. Thompson, I want to be clear. If the evidence supports what you've shown me, yes, this is a felony. He'll face serious consequences. When Dorothy and I left the station, I felt hollowed out, empty. It just set in motion something that could send my son to jail. You did the right thing, Dorothy said, squeezing my hand. I wished I could believe her. The hospital was more sympathetic once I provided them with copies of the police report. Carol called me back within a day. Mrs. Thompson, based on the documentation you've provided, we're removing your name from the account. Well, pursue the debt directly with your son and daughter-in-law. Thank you. I'm sorry you're going through this. Family situations like this are always the hardest. After Carol, I called the credit bureaus, disputed the inquiries, started the process of protecting my identity, freezing my credit so no one could open new accounts. The work was tedious and exhausting, but it gave me something to focus on besides the ache in my chest. 3 days after I filed the police report, Ryan called. I stared at his name on my phone screen, my finger hovering over the answer button. I answered. Mom, what the hell did you do? His voice was shaking with rage. The police came to our house. They asked me about identity theft. They had documents. How could you? How could you report your own son to the police? For the first time in my life, I didn't rush to soothe him. I didn't apologize. I didn't try to make it better. How could I? My voice was calm, cold. Ryan, you forged my signature. You tried to steal from me. You used my personal information without my permission. That's a crime. It's not stealing. You're my mother. I needed help, and you always help me. I was going to tell you eventually. Tell me after the fact? After you'd already committed fraud. It's not fraud when it's family. Yes, Ryan? It is. Amber's postpartum mom. She's struggling. She's exhausted, and now the hospital is coming after us for money we don't have. You're making her sick with this stress. Don't you care about your grandson? About what this is doing to him? The manipulation was so transparent, so obvious, and yet some part of me still wanted to give in, to make it all go away, to fix it for him. But I didn't. Ryan, you excluded me from the birth. You told me to my face that Amber never wanted me there. You made me drive 10 hours just to humiliate me in front of her entire family. And now you want me to care about Amber's feelings. That was different. That was just about the birth. This is about destroying our lives over money. You destroyed your own lives. You lost your job and didn't tell anyone. You went into massive debt. You tried to steal from me to cover your mistakes. None of that is my fault. If you'd just helped us, if you'd just given us the money like you always do, none of this would have happened. I gave you $10,000 for your wedding. That was all my savings, Ryan. I have nothing left to give. There was silence on the line. You're lying, he finally said. You always have money. No, Ryan. I worked 2 jobs for years to raise you. I put every extra dollar toward your future. The wedding money was the last of it. I'm 67 years old, working part-time at a library because I can't afford to fully retire. There is no secret bank account. There is no inheritance. There's just me, trying to survive. Then why did you put your name on the hospital form? I didn't. You forged my signature. I don't believe you. The police have a handwriting expert examining the documents. They'll prove it wasn't my signature. You're really going to do this. You're really going to send me to jail. I'm going to tell the truth. What happens after that is up to the justice system and up to you. If you do this, if you go through with this, you'll never see your grandson. Ever. I'll make sure of it. The threat landed exactly where he intended. My grandson, a child I'd barely glimpsed in photos. A child I might never hold. But I thought about what kind of man that child would grow up to see as his father. A man who manipulated, who stole, who threatened, a man who never faced consequences. Ryan, I said quietly, you already kept me from seeing him. You did that at the hospital. This doesn't change anything. I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the phone. I sat on my couch and pressed my palms against my knees, trying to steady myself. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a paranoid moment, I wondered if Ryan had driven here, if he was going to confront me in person. I looked through the peephole. It was Patricia, Amber's mother. I opened the door slowly, warily. Patricia looked terrible. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her face was bare of makeup. Her eyes were red. "Bernardine, please, may I come in?" Every instinct told me to say no. This woman had smirked at me in the hospital. This woman had written in that group chat about not needing my negative energy, but something in her expression made me step aside. We sat in my living room, an awkward silence stretching between us. "I owe you an apology," Patricia finally said. "I owe you so much more than that. But it'll start there." I waited. I found out what Ryan did. The forged signatures. The identity theft. Amber told me yesterday. After the police came, Patricia's voice cracked. "I had no idea. I swear to you, I didn't know." "But you did know about excluding me from the hospital. You participated in that." "Yes." She looked down at her hands. "Yes, I did. And am ashamed." "Why did you do it?" Patricia took a shaky breath. "Because I'm a snob. Because I looked at you and saw someone who didn't fit into the world I wanted for my daughter. Someone who worked in a diner and drove an old car and lived in a modest house. And I thought, she's not good enough to be in our family photos. She's not sophisticated enough. Not polished enough." The honesty was startling. "I taught Amber to think that way," Patricia continued. "From the time she was little, I taught her that people are divided into categories. Those who matter and those who don't. Success equals worth. Money equals value. I'm disgusted with myself. Why are you telling me this now? Because I see what my attitude created." Tears spilled down Patricia's cheeks. "Ryan and Amber feel entitled to everything and responsible for nothing. They're drowning in debt because they spent money trying to look successful instead of being successful. They lied, they manipulated, they committed crimes, and they did it because people like me taught them that appearance matters more than character." I didn't know what to say. Patricia wiped her eyes. "Amber is miserable. The baby cries constantly, and she doesn't know what to do. Ryan is falling apart, terrified of going to jail. They're blaming everyone but themselves, and I realized I helped make them this way. My husband and I gave them everything, fixed every problem, never let them struggle. We raised entitled children, just like you raised Ryan to expect you'd always catch him when he fell." That last part stung because it was partially true. "What do you want from me, Patricia?" "I don't want anything. I came to apologize, and to tell you that my husband and I have decided not to help them financially anymore. They need to face this. They need to grow up. The baby doesn't deserve to suffer." "Well, make sure the baby is safe and cared for. But Ryan and Amber need to solve their own problems. That starts with Ryan taking responsibility for what he did to you." After Patricia left, I sat in the growing darkness of my living room and thought about what Shed said. Had I enabled Ryan? Had my love become something toxic, something that prevented him from growing into a responsible adult? Maybe. Probably. But that didn't excuse what had done, and it didn't mean I had to continue the pattern. Detective Harris called a week later. "Mrs. Thompson, we've completed our investigation. The handwriting analysis confirms the signature on those documents wasn't yours. We have enough evidence to charge your son with identity theft, forgery, and fraud." My stomach dropped. "What happens now?" "We present our findings to the prosecutor. If she decides to move forward, your son will be formally charged. He could face up to 5 years in prison if convicted." 5 years. Is there any alternative? That's up to the prosecutor and your son. If he's willing to take responsibility, plead guilty, make restitution, there might be options for a lesser sentence. Probation, community service. But he'd have a criminal record. Detective Harris. Is there something called restorative justice? There was a pause. You've heard of that. My friend Dorothy mentioned it. Where the offender has to face what they did, make amends, but might avoid prosecution. It exists, but it's not common in cases like this. It requires the victim to agree, and the offender has to be willing to fully participate. It's intensive. Counseling, mediation, accountability measures. Would you be willing to present that option to the prosecutor? Mrs. Thompson, are you sure? Your son hurt you. Badly. You don't owe him mercy. It's not mercy. It's giving him one chance to become the person he should have been all along. If he refuses, if he doesn't take it seriously, then the criminal charges stand. But I want to give him the choice. Detective Harris sighed. You're a better person than most. I'll talk to the prosecutor. 2 days later, Dorothy called with news. The prosecutor agreed. Restorative justice program, contingent on Ryan's full participation. He has to attend counseling, both individual and with you. He has to make a formal apology in a mediated session. He has to pay restitution, even if it takes years. And if he violates any terms, the criminal charges proceed immediately. Has he agreed? Not yet. Dorothy contacted him through an attorney. Has considering it. Ryan called me that night. His voice was different, smaller, scared. Mom, they're offering me this program thing. Restorative justice? Did you ask for that? Yes. Why? Because you're my son, and despite everything, I believe you can be better than this. If I do it, I have to go to counseling. I have to sit in a room with you and talk about what I did. They said it's intensive, it's hard. Yes. And if I don't do it, I go to jail. Probably. There was a long silence. Amber and I are losing the house, Ryan said quietly. We're moving into an apartment. Her dad found me a job at one of his dealerships. Entry level. We can barely pay rent. The baby needs so much, and we can't afford anything. We're drowning, Mom. For the first time in our conversation, he sounded like my son again, vulnerable, honest. I'm sorry you're struggling, I said. I truly am. I messed up. I know I messed up. Yes, you did. If I do this program, if I go through with it, can we fix this? Can we fix us? That depends on you, Ryan, on whether you're willing to be honest. Really honest. About everything. I don't know if I can face it. Saying out loud what I did to you. That's the point. That's how you grow. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay, I'll do it. I'll do the program. The restorative justice session was scheduled for 3 weeks later. It would take place in a mediation center downtown, with a trained facilitator, Dorothy, and Detective Harris present. In the meantime, Ryan started counseling. Individual sessions with a therapist who specialized in financial crimes and family dysfunction. I started therapy too. My therapist, a woman named Dr. Ellen Greenfield, asked me questions no one had ever asked. Bernardine, when did you stop expecting things from Ryan? What do you mean? When did you stop expecting him to show up for you, to consider your feelings, to treat you with respect? I thought about it. After Gerald died, Ryan was so young, so hurt. I wanted to protect him from more pain. So I started just giving and never asking for anything back. And that became the pattern. Yes. You taught him, unintentionally, that your needs don't matter. That you exist to serve him. The words hurt because they were true. How do I change that? You're already changing it. You filed that police report. You set a boundary. For the first time, you said, "This is not acceptable." That took incredible courage. The day of the restorative justice session arrived. I dressed carefully, trying to feel strong. Dorothy picked me up, squeezed my hand. You can do this. The mediation room was small and plain. A circle of chairs. Ryan and Amber were already there. Ryan looked haggard, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Amber's face was tight and angry. Patricia surprised me by being there. I asked if I could attend, she said quietly. The facilitator approved it. I need to hear this. The facilitator, a man named Thomas, explained the process. Ryan would read a prepared statement about what had done. Then I would have a chance to respond, to explain the impact. Then we'd discuss repair and moving forward. Thomas looked at Ryan. Whenever you're ready. Ryan's hands shook as he unfolded a piece of paper. His voice was barely above a whisper. I stole my mother's identity. I forged her signature on legal documents. I tried to open credit accounts in her name without her knowledge or permission. I planned to manipulate her love for her grandchild to get money from her. I lied to her. I excluded her from the birth of her first grandchild, a moment Shed looked forward to for months, because I was too cowardly to face what I'd done. I let my wife and her family humiliate her because I thought it was easier than telling the truth. He stopped, swallowed hard. I told myself I had good reasons. We needed money. We were desperate. Mom always helped before, so I figured Shed understand eventually. But those aren't reasons. They're excuses. I committed crimes against my own mother, against the woman who raised me alone, who worked 2 jobs to give me opportunities, who sacrificed everything for me. And I repaid her by treating her like she was worthless. Tears ran down Ryan's face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I don't know how I became this person. I don't know when I stopped seeing you as a person with feelings and needs and started seeing you as just someone who existed to help me. But I did, and I hate myself for it. Thomas turned to me. Bernardine, would you like to respond? I looked at Ryan, at my son, broken and ashamed. Ryan, when your father died, you were 12 years old. I promised him I'd give you everything, protect you from pain. But I realize now I protected you so much that I never let you face consequences. Every time you made a mistake, I fixed it. Every time you needed money, I gave it without question, even when I couldn't afford it. I taught you that people would always catch you when you fell. I created this. Ryan's eyes widened. Mom, no, this isn't your fault. It's not all my fault. But I played a role. I enabled you. And I'm sorry for that. Amber spoke up, her voice cracking. I need to say something too. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time. I thought your mom wasn't good enough for our family because she didn't have money or status. My mother taught me that, but watching you now, seeing how you handled this with dignity while we fell apart, I realize you have more class than anyone I know. I'm ashamed of how I treated you. I'm ashamed of what I said on the phone. Patricia was crying openly. I influenced Amber's attitude toward you from the start. I poisoned the relationship. I taught my daughter to look down on people who struggled financially, people who worked hard like you did. I'm so sorry. The room was full of tears, of pain, of truth finally spoken. Thomas asked the question that mattered most. What does repair look like? What needs to happen for this family to heal? I took a deep breath. I don't want the money back. Not the $10,000 from the wedding, not the hospital bills, none of it. I want my son back. The son I raised to be honest and kind. And I want to know my grandson. But only if it's real, not obligation. Ryan nodded. I want that too. I want to be better. I want to be someone you can be proud of again. Then hair is what I need. Honesty. Always. No more lies. No more hiding. Respect for me as a person, not just as your mother. And we continue counseling together. We learn how to have a healthy relationship. I agree to all of that. And you pay me back. Not the full amount, but something. Even if it's $20 a month. Because taking responsibility matters. I will. I promise. Amber spoke quietly. I'd like to learn how to have a relationship with you too, Bernardine. A real one. I don't know how, but I want to try. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. 3 months passed. Not quickly, not easily, but they passed. Ryan and Amber moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. Amber's father gave Ryan a job at one of his dealerships, working in the service department. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work with steady pay. They sold most of their expensive possessions. The designer furniture, the luxury baby gear, all of it went to pay down their debt. They kept only what they needed. Ryan attended counseling twice a week, individual sessions on Thursdays, family sessions with me on Tuesdays. At first, those Tuesday sessions were excruciating. We'd sit in Dr. Greenfield's office, and the silence would stretch between us, full of everything we'd never said. But slowly, week by week, we started to talk. Really talk. about Gerald's death and how it changed us both, about the pressure Ryan felt to be successful enough for Amber's family, about my fear of losing him the way I lost Gerald, and how that fear made me hold on too tight and expect too little. Amber started therapy too, working through the toxic beliefs her upbringing had planted. She called me one evening, hesitant and nervous. "Bernardine, would you come over this weekend? I'd like you to meet Gerald. Really meet him." I drove to their apartment on Saturday morning. It was in an older complex, nothing fancy, but clean and safe. When Amber opened the door, she looked tired, but genuine. The baby was 3 months old now, no longer the tiny newborn from the hospital photos. He had Ryan's eyes and Amber's nose. When Amber placed him in my arms, he looked up at me with curious attention. "Id brought the yellow blanket, the one Id knitted. I made this for him," I said. Before everything happened, Amber took it carefully, running her fingers over the stitches. "It's beautiful. Thank you." We sat in their small living room, and I showed Gerald the photo album Id created. Ryan leaned over my shoulder, pointing at pictures. "That's me at your age," he told his son softly. "With Grandma at the park." It wasn't a fairy tale moment. It was awkward and tentative, but it was real. Over the following weeks, visits became regular. Every Sunday afternoon, I'd come over. Sometimes he'd bring food. Sometimes he'd just hold the baby while Ryan and Amber napped. They were exhausted, overwhelmed, learning how to be parents without unlimited resources or family members solving their problems. But they were trying. Ryan made his first payment to me on the 15th of the second month. $25, carefully counted out in cash. "It's not much," he said. "You're kinder than I deserve. We're both learning to be better. That's what matters." Ryan got his 6-month review at the dealership. His manager said he was one of the hardest workers they had. Reliable, honest, willing to learn. Amber's father pulled me aside at a family dinner and said, "Ryan's becoming a good man." I didn't think he had it in him, frankly. "But you never gave up on him." "I almost did," I admitted. "But you didn't. You gave him consequences and grace at the same time. That's wisdom." The criminal charges were formally dropped after Ryan completed his first 3 months of the restorative justice program. Detective Harris called to tell me, "Hez, doing everything right, Mrs. Thompson. Attending all sessions, making restitution payments, taking accountability. I've seen a lot of these cases, and most people don't change. But I think your son might. I hope so. You did good. Setting that boundary probably saved his life." One evening, about 4 months after everything began, Ryan called me. Not for anything specific, just to talk. We spoke for an hour, about his day at work, about Gerald learning to smile. "About a funny thing," Amber said. "Normal things, parent and adult child things." At the end of the call, Ryan said, "Mom, I love you." I don't think I've said that in a long time. Not meaningfully. "I love you too, sweetheart." After we hung up, I sat in Gerald's old recliner and thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the betrayal, the police reports, the tears, the slow rebuilding. And I realized something. For 20 years, I thought love meant sacrifice without limits. Giving until there was nothing left. Absorbing pain so others wouldn't feel it. I thought protecting my child from every consequence was my job as a mother. But real love requires boundaries. Real love tells the truth even when it's hard. Real love lets people face the results of their choices because that's how they grow. I didn't lose my son when I filed that police report. I saved him. I showed him that actions have consequences, but also that people can change, heal, and rebuild. The greatest gift I gave Ryan wasn't the money I sacrificed over the years. It was the moment I said no more. That's when he finally had the chance to become a man of integrity. And I learned that my worth doesn't come from what I can give or endure. It comes from who I am, a woman who survived, who worked hard, who loved deeply, and who finally loved herself enough to demand respect. That $10,000 hospital deposit? In the end, It bought me something priceless: my dignity, my voice, and a relationship with my son built on truth instead of obligation. The months continued to pass. Gerald grew, started sitting up, babbling, reaching for toys. I was there for his milestones, not because I demanded it, but because Ryan and Amber wanted me there. At Gerald's 6-month checkup, the pediatrician asked about family medical history. Ryan looked at me. "Mom, can you help with this?" I don't remember everything about Dad's side. We sat together in the examination room, me holding Gerald while Ryan filled out forms, and I told stories about Gerald Sr., about his kindness, his strength, his sudden death. "I wish he could have met his grandson," I said softly. "Me too," Ryan said. "I think he'd be proud of who we're becoming." I think he would be. On a Sunday afternoon in early spring, we had a family dinner at Ryan and Amber's apartment. Patricia and her husband came. Dorothy came, having become part of our extended family through all of this. We crowded around their small table, passing dishes, laughing at Gerald's attempts to grab everything in sight. It wasn't fancy. The food was simple, the space was cramped, but it was full of love, real love, the kind built on honesty and respect, and second chances earned through hard work. Patricia raised her glass. A toast to Bernardine, who taught us all what real strength looks like. "To Mom," Ryan added, his voice thick with emotion. We clinked glasses, and I looked around the table at these people who'd hurt me, who'd learned alongside me, who'd chosen to be better. This was enough. This was more than enough. Later, as I drove home in the twilight, I thought about what I would tell someone else going through something similar. What wisdom had I earned through all this pain? I'd tell them that loving someone doesn't mean accepting abuse or manipulation. That being a good parent sometimes means letting your child fail, struggle, and face consequences. That you can't save someone from themselves, no matter how much you love them. I'd tell them that setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's necessary. It's how you teach people how to treat you. And sometimes, it's how you teach people how to treat themselves. I'd tell them that it's never too late to change the patterns in your family. That healing is possible, but only if everyone is willing to be honest, to do the work, to admit their mistakes. And I'd tell them that your worth as a person, as a parent, as a human being, doesn't come from how much you sacrifice or how much pain you can endure. It comes from knowing yourself, respecting yourself, and demanding that others do the same. The story doesn't end with perfection. Ryan and Amber still struggle financially. They still have hard days. Gerald still cries at 2 a.m. Patricia and I still sometimes say the wrong thing to each other, but we're all trying. We're all growing, and that's what matters. I pull into my driveway, park the car, and look at my small house. The place I worked so hard to keep after Gerald died. The place I raised Ryan. The place I've rebuilt my life, my dignity, my sense of self. It's not much by some standards, but it's mine. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of me. Inside, I make tea and sit in Gerald's recliner with a book. My phone buzzes with a text from Ryan. A photo of baby Gerald in the yellow blanket, asleep and peaceful. The message reads, "He loves the blanket you made. Thank you for everything, Mom, for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it." I smile, save the photo, and text back a heart emoji. Then I return to my book, to my tea, to my quiet evening. I'm 67 years old. I've survived loss and betrayal and heartbreak. I've made mistakes and learned from them. I've loved too much and not enough and finally, just right. And I'm at peace. That's the lesson, really. That peace doesn't come from having a perfect family or a perfect life. It comes from being honest, setting boundaries, loving yourself, and giving others the space to become who they're meant to be, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Because that's when real growth happens. That's when real love begins. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for yourself? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. These stories matter because they remind us we're not alone in our struggles. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like It helps others find these stories too. And if you'd like to hear more stories about family, resilience, and the hard-won wisdom that comes from surviving difficult times, please subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything. Share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes, knowing that others have walked similar paths and come out stronger on the other side makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. I wish you courage in your own journey. Whatever challenges you're facing, remember, you're stronger than you know, and you deserve respect, honesty, and love. Never forget that. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.